This should be coming to you on the Uposatha. So hello and welcome to the Uposatha of April, the Buddhist holy day, the full moon in April, known here in Sri Lanka as Poya Day, the full moon being the one lunar observance day they recognize mainly, the full moon. In Thailand they observe the new moon also, and in Buddhism we observe as the Sangha of ordained monks, Bhikkhus and Bhikkhunis, the new moon and full moon for various purposes, such as recitation of our Vinaya rules, at least those that are contained in the Patimokkha, the 227 rules that we keep, precepts that we keep, guidelines of how to live our lives in relation to the Vinaya Pitaka, the full guidelines contained therein of thousands of rules and bylaws and pointers to keep us on the path, to help us maintain sila, keeping the main precepts of no killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying or taking of intoxicants, refraining from those. And then in addition, you may practice as lay people on these Uposatha, lunar observance days, maybe 8 precepts where you abstain from eating after lunchtime, you have no need to accessorize yourselves with makeup or hairdos, beautification, jewelry, etc. You can leave that alone. Maybe if you can, if possible, put the phones down, turn them off, go offline for the day, because we should, with the 8 precepts, abstain from entertainment. Of course, in the time of the Buddha, this took different forms. It would have been musical shows, dancing girls, it would have been sporting events, competitive events, training of skills, I don't know, all kinds of things that people do as lay people to distract themselves or to alleviate what we know as boredom. So this we put aside for this day, this lunar observance day. If you are not monks, you take 8 precepts and you say, that's what I'll do. I'll just sit and practice meditation, maybe listen to or do some chanting, listen to some Dharma talks, but aside from that, refrain from distracting myself in any way, shape or form by other means of entertainment. So yes, turn those 6 hindrances to the practice of smartphones off for the day, except for albeit the necessary communications you need to maintain for your welfare. And then finally, we refrain specifically in the rule from sleeping in high places, but you can extend this to lounging around on comfortable sofas for the day. So as we approach the full moon of April, this lunar observance day, as is very often the case, because this is the calendar by which I literally operate and use in a very practical and specific way, it isn't just coincidence that this is also the approaching of 180 days, 6 months that I have spent here in this beautiful country, Sri Lanka, under the hospitality, under the hospitality of the kind and generous Buddhist layfolk here, whom have fed me from the minute I arrived until now, each and every day, and looked after me well, and now accommodate me in this much more appropriate and practical kuti, still in the same location roughly, so I can maintain the same arms round. But in all that time I've been looked after very well here, and also by yourselves where there have been some other needs. during this time. In order for me to be able to maintain Sila, we have also, in addition to those 8 precepts, one can, when you go to live in a monastery, as a layperson even, adopt 10 precepts, which is just a case of splitting one of them into 2. So entertainment and beautification becomes 2 precepts rather than 1. And we add on no using of any money. We refrain from using money. So we cannot, in fact, buy anything that we need. Now, as monks, we have to observe this rule. We can't use money. So when incidentals arise, such as I've had to go into hospital and various expenses occur as a result of that, albeit most of this treatment I received was, again, given as dana by the doctors involved where they could, where it was possible. But they have to hire facilities in hospitals that and anaesthetists and such like. So it can't all be free, but your kind donations have assisted with that. So I'm very fortunate living this monk's life, and this is the purpose of the monk's life, that we can dedicate our entire time to practice rather than earning a living, without the worry of how to support ourselves, because we know that the 4 basic requisites of food, shelter, clothing and medicine will be provided. Now, of course, when you're not living in a Buddhist society, this isn't necessarily so easy, but actually in this day and age with communication like this kind of platform, you can get to know of monks and nuns living in your areas, even if they're not Buddhist countries, and you can help them. You can support them in just that same way as I am supported here, quite simply. So, of course, a monk or a nun doesn't require much to keep them going, just a little food and, as you see, some very basic accommodation. That is supplied by the locals here. In return for that, I support them by doing various activities they expect of monks in terms of chanting, teaching them the Dharma, helping them celebrate their various occasions that they celebrate. A lot of that is mainly done by the temple monks here in the big temples and monasteries in the locality and around the country, because of course there are many. But if it wasn't a Buddhist country, then you'd have groups of meditators, Buddhist practitioners that you would assist in that function as a monk. So here I'm quite free to just practice meditation. But by far have we escaped from society, and as is the timeline of events, this 180 days approaching, this full moon that is today, the Uposatha, is representative of that, because I arrived here the day after the full moon of October, which signified the end of the Vassa, the monsoon retreat period, the time when monks stay in one place. And if you'll remember, I was then in India, in Ketohali, just near Bangalore, southern India, for that 3-month previously. Prior to that, I was 7 months in Thailand. I came to India for the Vassa, and then after the Vassa, I came here on the way back to Thailand to just visit and see how Sri Lanka was, being as it was a Buddhist country that I'd yet to experience and visit. And then found it so accommodating, so comfortable, so conducive to practice that I decided to stay. That aside, however, the world goes on. Convention goes on, and when 180 days is up for a foreigner, you have to leave. It's not as final as that. I can come back, but in order to comply with visa regulations, one has to leave the country for a very short while, and then you can come back. Now, I think I could just literally get on a plane, fly to the nearest place, and return again, but I don't want to, there's no hurry, so I don't want to take any risks or cause anybody any difficulties with delays in, I don't know, the administration of these things, albeit they're all done online. There can be hiccups. So I'll allow a few days, even maybe a week or so, and have, fortunately, been provided with a ticket, albeit only one way, but it's no problem, I'll get back, to Thailand, for this purpose. So this Saturday coming, in a few days' time, I will go late in the evening when it's not too hot. It is still very hot here. This is the hot season. It's not quite midsummer by the conventional calendar, but by the positioning of the sun in relation to this geographic position of this country in relation to the equator. This is the hottest time of year here. So it's very, very hot indeed. Very nice when it rains a little bit. It cools the air, it freshens the air, and as yet it isn't too humid. But I hope to return within a few days, and whilst I'm in Thailand, I may disappear for a few days from here. However, my intention is to visit the monastery where I was staying for the 7 months prior to returning to India and then coming here. I'll visit there if I can stay there for a few days, and if it isn't inappropriate, I will try and update you whilst I'm there in this same way. So you might get to experience or share with me, I might be able to share with you some of my upcoming trip to Thailand, if it's relevant to the Dharma. And as you know, I don't just do travel video things, that's not my aim of this, is to share experiences in relation to Dharma. So this time we reflect upon our practice. Significantly for me, I'm reflecting more this Uposatha as I continue to enjoy my solitary existence and practice of meditation. I can reflect on how that's been supported by yourselves and local people here over the last 6 months in this what is a strange country to me, and I am a stranger to them, but that has gone unnoticed. I've felt very much at home. They have been very accommodating, as I've said many times, and if you see the videos you can see of Pindapata, me going on alms round, that's quite early on in my time here, and should be, if I can find someone to do it again, updated, because now it's even more well supported, because so many people know of my living here, my existence here, and look after me so very well. So when I return, hopefully I can do that. It'll also show you how we go on Pindapata each day, even when it's raining, because that is the case. I expect in the next few months the rains will start, and I fully intend and hope to be here for that 3-month Vasa monsoon retreat time. So I'm reflecting on this deep feeling of gratitude, and that is a wonderful way of reflecting on dana. Dana is one of the foremost, it's the number one of parami. Paramis isn't a specific Buddhist list, but it's various lists taken from the suttas of qualities that we develop through our practice in ourselves and put into a list. In the Theravada tradition there are 10, in the Mahayana I think 8, but nevertheless they're quite very similar, and these lists also reflect these qualities that are mentioned elsewhere, like karuna, metta, mudita, upekkha, and other aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path, sati, samadhi, virya, energy, and these aspects of truth, satya, and the first being dana, generosity, giving. And I can only really experience that here. I can only experience that with the support you give me. Not necessarily through donations, just your comments are the biggest contribution that I can have to encourage me in continuing to do this part of my practice. And I do consider this part, talking to you, as my practice also. By talking out loud, talking to another, and you can try this, we are exploring our ideas, our thoughts. We're opening up ourselves also to comment, criticism, both positive and negative, other views, and exploration of our ideas. We're testing our thoughts, put it that way. When you're practicing in solitude like this, I don't have very much opportunity to do that. I get the opportunity to speak to lay people that are local, but I have to keep that very simple because I don't speak Sinhalese, and they are having to translate those that speak English into their own mother tongue. So we're just really talking about the basics of practice. And this is all I'm talking about with you, but with a little bit more exploratory discourse into how, through these experiences, we can relate to our everyday lives as lay people, these Buddhist practices that are going on as monastics, and apply them to all kinds of situations. This is what I try to do. This is how I was drawn into, how I was first attracted to becoming a monk, becoming a Buddhist monk, because I was using a lot of those techniques and practices in lay life. And it was reducing all of the burdens in lay life that I had in terms of how much my cost of living came considerably down when I took the 8 precepts, for instance. That's as literally as that. If you only eat once a day, you reduce your outgoings. If you get rid of all forms of entertainment, you reduce your outgoings. If you stop drinking alcohol, then that's of course in the 5 precepts, you would reduce all of your outgoings. And you can also find then, as a result of that, you have to work. You don't have to work so many hours. I took advantage of that by working just part-time, still to pay the necessary expenses, but reducing my full-time work to very, much less. And that allowed me more time to spend at the local monastery in my own country and visit there, and also practice alone at home, practicing solitude there, getting used to my own company. It's something you develop as a skill, getting used to your own company. Seeing viveka, seclusion or refuge, in its various forms. Kaya viveka is refuge in the physical form. So this is where we go to physical solitude, say living in a cave or under a tree in the forest or in a monastery or on a retreat, or even just shutting the front door of your flat at home and turning the phone off and having nothing to do with the outside world for a little while. This is the physical aspect of viveka, seclusion, solitude, refuge. It's not a imprisonment, it's not a solitary confinement, it's a matter of choice that perhaps at first isn't something we enjoy. When we first sit upright without moving for even a few minutes, it isn't necessarily enjoyable. We come to enjoy it, we learn to enjoy it or experience it as something that is ultimately very, very satisfying, restorative and pleasurable. And then we begin to enjoy it, and we begin to enjoy it from the minute we begin. The minute we sit, the minute we lock the front door, the minute we turn the phone off, that's nice. I'm free now. I'm not constrained. I'm not in confinement. This is not solitary confinement. I'm free from all of that disturbance and distraction to just relax, allowing my body to relax with time, allowing my mind to settle with time and become calm and tranquil, be able to see everything more clearly. This is what we call vipassana in the Pali word, which you will have heard of, which literally means to see clearly. See clearly what's going on up there. With all that we desire outside, we don't notice. We just go from one distraction to another to another. Finish watching one thing and then we go to the next thing to watch that. Finish reading one book and we're immediately thinking of the next book, rather than just settling. And this meditation time allows us to do that. And that we can begin to train and practice in by this kaya viveka, the physical bodily viveka, refuge, seclusion. But citta viveka, which happens to be the name of my monastery in England, Chithurst Buddhist Monastery, but in the Pali name Watpa, which means forest monastery, Watpa Citta Viveka, means citta viveka, and that is seclusion of the mind. So a refuge of the mind, and that we can maintain throughout all of our daily activities as we continue through life. So my kaya viveka is here, in this location, currently. But on Saturday night, I will have to go to a busy airport in a busy city, fly to another busy airport in another busy city. No idea what will happen thereafter. I mean, I have no plans made. I just, as I say, have a one-way ticket to Bangkok. The rest I put in the hands of others. As a bhikkhu, I can't make plans. I have no money. I just get to the airport and see what happens. Something nice, hopefully. And there I have, though, continuing on my travels with me, citta viveka, and that is the refuge, the seclusion of the mind. So that whatever's going on, I can still just sit or even have to stand if I'm in a queue waiting for something. This is not really much the case. Going from one Buddhist country to another Buddhist country, they treat monks very, very well indeed. But I will have, whatever it is, the circumstances I face, citta viveka. But that's only come about through the development of that quality, being able to be secluded within oneself, even though all around you is going a bit crazy or a bit different to what you're used to, you still can maintain some degree, a level of equanimity, unreactiveness, unburnt by the heat, untouched by what's going on. Moving a little with the winds as is necessary, but like a tree that's flexible, whilst it's living well. If it becomes unhealthy and begins to die, it becomes brittle and it will snap. Unlike that, we need to just be able to sway a little bit with what's going on around us. We don't stubbornly with equanimity. This isn't a quality of completely shutting ourselves off. Deaf, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, do no evil, or whatever. Being deaf, blind, and not speaking, it's not that. That's a misconception of equanimity. That is like the activity, as Ajahn Chah would have said, a chicken scraping around all day looking for food in the ground, or a buffalo just meandering around not really caring what's going on. No, we have to have this quality of vipassana, seeing clearly, as well as being able to understand and know how we have to react wisely in all situations when we're exploring, experiencing citta viveka in day-to-day activities. So we develop the skill with kaya viveka in solitude, alone, through samadhi, through developing the ability to just sit still and do nothing for a long time. And we use that skill, we take it with us from that sitting situation in a secluded environment into a less so secluded environment in all the activities, whatever it is that we're doing. And this is where we practice, this is where we use citta viveka, seclusion of the mind. So hopefully that will come with me on my forthcoming travels. In the meantime, there are a few days left here yet for me to continue with your comments, talking about those, and some of the questions you've sent in, talking about those. I purposely don't say answer those questions because I don't have all of the answers. I will just talk to you about your questions and how I treat those situations from my own experience and through my knowledge, but it's only my knowledge of the Buddha's teachings. Someone asked me about mentorship, being a mentor, being a teacher, and I replied that, you know, the Buddha is our teacher, the Buddha is our mentor, he is our example. The Sangha that is us, monks and nuns, is there to live by the strict code as is in the Vinaya Pitaka, in accordance with the guidelines of the Buddha, a life that is secluded to some extent from the outside, but integrates and has to, by the very nature of it, in order to survive, to integrate with lay people and support them as they support us. Materialistically, we support them spiritually. But we do that by way of example, the way we live. I was criticised recently, actually, of not being equanimous. And the circumstances were such that perhaps I wasn't exercising khanti, patience, or it may not have sounded as if I was exercising khanti, patience, as well as much or as much as a monk might be expected to. But one has to remember, we're not chickens, we're not buffaloes. If you're in a situation where a circumstance arises and that matter has to be addressed, otherwise you will suffer, and then possibly others around you might in turn suffer also, then you might have to speak up. If people don't understand firstly, or ignore what you're saying, you might have to reiterate that a little bit more firmly. And this can sound a little towards anger. But this is like when a mother stops her child running into the road or touching the fire. She'll, out of compassion, say, "Da, stop," you know? It is a reaction, but it's with compassion. It's with wisdom. It's through experience. So it might be nice when you hear, oh, peace and love and tranquility in these videos, all very calm. But in real life, as we can see in some videos, you'll see that everything isn't like that. And even monks have to speak up in certain situations. So actually, I can only know myself, and this is something monks don't share with others, what they attain through their practice. You can also, from that example, know yourself, the qualities you develop through your practice, and you shouldn't feel the necessity to share that with others, but through the way you live and by your example, others will know, will experience. But occasionally people may, through your actions of body, speech and mind, they may well misinterpret those actions and criticize you. But this is okay. It's understandable. Some people whom aren't at the same level as you in their practice might misunderstand why you do something a certain way. And vice versa. We're all at different levels and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't help anyone to draw comparisons. We should always just look inwardly. And these Uposatha days are for that purpose. These are the time when we can go that little bit further with our own practice if we're lay people, taking 8 precepts in order to avoid extra distraction and to free up more time, to just look inwardly and say, well, last Uposatha, even if it was a month ago, say you only do it once a month on the full moon, how was my equanimity last Uposatha? Or even more realistically, because it's not something that develops very quickly, go back 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. How has your equanimity developed? So those that might have criticized me recently for perhaps not being so patient over a situation, didn't know me 5 years ago, they would have seen a very different reaction indeed. But although we're cleansing our minds, so we could say we're brainwashing ourselves through this practice, and especially as ordained monks, changing what we have developed over a lifetime in lay life as our personalities, which of course are nothing but fiction, based on circumstances, causes and conditions that we've put in place and that are around us, those will change when we're ordained and when we become monks or nuns, or as lay people, as you practice, those personality traits, characteristics will change. And this is the convention of who we are. This is what we are seeing through wisdom, the development of wisdom, as just that, just a convention, not actually what we are. Actually what we are is not that, not a self, but that which knows this personality, its actions of body, speech and mind, how it reacts, how it doesn't react, and the qualities it develops through its practice. Now you can probably hear some various sounds and things going on in the background. It still seems to be the holiday time here, and being Poya, that extends this new year a little further. So things have been going on, visitors coming and going to the various properties and little places around here, and changes have been going on, and it's been a good time to sit also with myself and see how one alters in respect of the physical conditions around you. This is the only way we can test. If we're always in a very stable situation and we restrict our practice to just that. So say, for instance, we go to a meditation retreat quite regularly. Once a week maybe we visit the monastery, and we go to the monastery and we sit in a beautiful place where we can meditate, all in peace and quiet, undisturbed, for 3 hours every week, or even every Uposatha, or even once a month. That isn't good enough, because nothing is actually coming away. You're using this kaya viveka. This is just getting away. What is good enough is if you take that practice that you do there outside with you, and you remain equanimous and undisturbed outside whatever's going on. Or when the monastery changes, as it does, as they do. You know, the next full moon Uposatha coming up in May is the Vesak celebrations, Vesak, the Buddhist holy day, the main of the 4 Buddhist holy days, because it represents the birth, enlightenment, and the first teaching, and the death. No, not the first teaching. Well, I'm going wrong here. Birth, enlightenment, and death, the 3 things of the Buddha's, the main significant part of the Buddha's life. This is the full moon of May, and it's also the changeover of the Buddhist calendar, so it becomes the year 2568 years since the parinibbana, the final death of the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, the man who was the Buddha, the enlightened one, in his time, who taught for 45 years this Sangha, which is still around and surviving strongly today, which is where this Buddhist religion is maintained, where it's held, amongst its Sangha and those that support the Sangha, the lay folk, the lay people. Continues to this day, and hopefully into the future for a long time to come. Predicted by the Buddha from his demise would have been, he said, 5,000 years. So we're only halfway through, just a bit over now. So there's a long time of this Buddha Sasana for us to enjoy. But most importantly, know that the word of the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, are there. So we have as monks this Vinaya Pitaka, but we all have the Sutta Pitaka, which is the teachings of the Buddha, the word of the Buddha. And then there is the Abhidharma, which is the additional commentaries, more detailed examination of the teachings and the practice, the study into the mind, the practice of meditation, that has kind of subsequently become part of this Tripitaka, which is the 3 volumes, the 3 scriptures, the 3 books. Each of those contains within it its own collection of parts. So this is celebrated next month, and if you're staying quietly, peacefully, living in a monastery, that will not be a month of Kaya Viveka. There will be all sorts of goings on, decorating, cleaning, putting flowers out, everything being changed around, making accommodation for visiting monks and lay visitors coming, because there will be lots of celebrations going on around the world to celebrate this 2568th Vesak, the birth, enlightenment and death of the Buddha, anniversary, birthday of this full moon in May. But that's a month away, by which time I'll be back here, for me, within my Kaya Viveka, within this kuti, but externally it'll be another holiday period and probably quite busy time for me in the town and surrounding areas. So we develop this Chitta Viveka, firstly, with the benefit, if we have it and access to it, Kaya Viveka, physical seclusion. We develop mental seclusion. The ability to have that seclusion, viveka, wherever we are, whatever we're doing. I will keep you updated. The next few days I will continue to just talk about your comments and questions. Once again, thank you, or anumodana, for that. Anumodana means sharing joyous gratitude with you for the good acts you are doing in making these comments and asking good questions for me to continue to respond and keep these talks going. Trying to practice some equanimity and keep my mindfulness sati on the subject in hand, and not think, oh, wonder what Nasha's doing, because he's been making some funny noises just recently, like that you just heard. But yes, so next few days will be as normal after this Suposita, and I will be by next week back here, and in the meantime be able to share with you something of my travels anyway, as to wherever I get to. I think that's about sums up all I had to say today. So I will say to you now, if there is something useful in there, please use it and share it. If not, just let it go, put it down. And please thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yes, there's a lot of subscribers now. I think it's about to it doesn't make any difference really, but hit a significant number of this channel, hit a significant number of 10,000 subscribers, but it's only significant in that we recognize that as a round number, don't we? But it's amazing to think that from the beginning, just not much over a year ago, maybe it's 18 months ago, that I started talking like this, and nothing's changed. I've not developed it in any way. I don't intend to. It's just me talking to you. Hopefully it's like on a one-to-one basis, because it does feel like that to me. It certainly doesn't feel like there's a few hundred people watching. I think if there was a few hundred people sitting in front of me watching, I perhaps wouldn't feel quite so equanimous and vivekad. Chitta Viveka wouldn't be quite so much there. I'd be looking at a few hundred people and thinking, crumbs, what shall I say? But that is the case, and that's very good to know that that many people are interested in hearing the Dharma, but not only that, but how we can use it practically in our everyday lives. And when I hear comments to that effect, it's very encouraging, and it's that encourages me to continue doing this. So I will continue doing this over the course of the next few days, even on my travels, if I possibly get the opportunity to, and it is appropriate. So with that, be happy, stay well, Suki Hotu. Until next time.